You keep waiting on a miracle, a mentor, a mother, a map, some invisible force to break the chains, clear the fog, and show you the way. As if you deserve saving just because you're tired of being lost. I told you once already, no one is coming, and yet here you are again, staring at the door like the knock is just running late. Listen closely, weakling. If you were supposed to be rescued, it would have happened by now. What you're mistaking as patience is really paralysis. What you're calling hope is just fear wearing a halo. You think your past justifies your present, and your pain earns you a pass. But guess what? The world isn't fair, and the playing field isn't level. It never was. It never will be. Some were born with gold spoons. Some were born with rusted chains. And some, like me, were born with nothing but fire and fists. I didn't get bedtime stories. I didn't get lullabies or loving guidance. I was an orphan of chaos, forged by abandonment and rage. Nobody taught me how to survive. Nobody held my hand. Nobody whispered, "You can do it." I had to decide. Either I rot in the ashes of what I never got, or I rise and take what I was never given. And that's exactly what I did. Not because I was chosen, not because I was favored, but because I refused to die forgotten, because I refused to let my pain be pointless, because I refused to be the villain in someone else's story when I could be the god of my own. You think if you had what they had, you'd be different. But be honest, some of you have more than people ever dreamed of, and you're doing less than they ever dared. You waste opportunities that others would bleed for. You scroll through luxury and envy it, but deep down, you know, if it were handed to you, you'd probably fumble that too. Because you don't lack resources, you lack discipline, you lack hunger, you lack the will to look in the mirror and say, if I die like this, it's my fault. That's why you're stuck, because the truth tastes too bitter for your sweet little victim tongue. But let me be clear. No one's coming. Not now, not ever. You're not owed a redemption arc. You're not guaranteed a glow-up. You either build yourself into the monster that can walk through fire without flinching, or you stay where you are, praying for heroes in a world that doesn't hand them out. I didn't become Skeletor by accident. I became Skeletor because the world tried to forget me, and I swore I'd make it remember. So what's your excuse? You know what the difference is between me and He-Man? He had a mother who whispered bedtime stories about heroes. She tucked him in with tales of valor, told him he was destined for greatness, told him the world would bend for a good man with a strong heart. And what did I get? Silence, shadows, maybe a half-rotten blanket and a wall to lean on. If I was lucky, there was no bedtime story, no light at the end of the hallway. Nobody sat beside my childhood bed and said, "You were meant for more." You know what I had? Hunger, cold, the sound of my own breath trying not to break. While He-Man was being told he could become Superman, I was being shown how people disappear. That's the part you soft fools don't understand. You envy what people became without understanding what they were given before they ever had to fight for it. It's not just money, it's belief, encouragement, support. And most of you didn't get that either. That's why you feel broken, because your foundation was made of pain instead of promises. But here's the ugly truth. You don't need a bedtime story to become something legendary. It might hurt more, it might take longer, but if you're still waiting on encouragement, then you're not ready for anything worth becoming. Because legends aren't raised, they're forged. They're carved from silence, sharpened by rejection, tempered by the rage of being overlooked. He-Man was handed a sword and a destiny. I stole mine. And maybe that makes me the villain in his story. But at least I'm something. At least I became more than a cautionary tale. At least I didn't let my lack of nurture become a life sentence. Most people will never win, not because they couldn't, but because they chose comfort over confrontation. They got tired, they got bored, they got used to surviving, and somewhere along They confuse that with living. They had dreams, but not enough discipline to chase them in the dark. They had anger, but not enough strategy to weaponize it. They had trauma, but refused to turn it into purpose, so they died quietly, wrapped in soft excuses and sad little habits, and no one will remember them, not even themselves. But you're still here. You're still watching. That means there's something inside you that's not ready to rot. Maybe it's small, maybe it's silent, but it's still breathing, and that's enough. Look, sometimes the hole you're in is so deep you forget what light even it feels like. Sometimes the pain runs so long you don't even know what's you anymore. And I get that, I do, which is why for once I'll give you something useful, a cheat code. Listen closely. If you don't know how to start, then don't. Just watch. Watch me. Listen. Let these words hammer your spine into steel. Keep coming back. Not because I'm your savior. No. Because I'm your reminder. A voice that won't lie to you. A villain that won't coddle you. And over time, if you keep showing up, something in you will shift. Something ancient. Something unstoppable. And then one day, you won't need my voice anymore, because the one inside you will finally be loud enough. That's the goal, that's the win. But when that day comes, don't disappear. Don't vanish like a coward with a clean shirt. If this channel woke something in you, if these words broke the chains that held your spine hostage, then stick around. Not because you need me, but because someone else still does. Drop your story in the comments. Let them know you made it through the storm, bleeding but breathing. Show them that rising isn't a myth, it's a method. Show them what happens when a former victim decides to conquer instead of cope. Be the dark torch in someone else's tunnel. Not because it's noble, not because it's sweet, but because it's what a real monster does. We don't leave the others behind. We reach back, drag them out, and remind them that power is always a choice. That's how this missing piece you flesh bags are needing starts to spread. That's how this army grows. That's how we build a legion of warriors who stopped begging to be rescued and started resurrecting themselves. You were never meant to follow forever, but once you rise, you better turn around and pull someone else up by the throat. That's the only repayment I want. Not applause, not devotion, just results. Now go, build your warpath, and make the world regret doubting you. Skeletor out, but I'll be watching. Don't get comfortable.